Neeves Knives. I'm Jared, and today we have the full review, good and bad, of the Winter Blades Factor. We're going to get into everything, all the details on sharpening, heat treat, how the magnets work, the bad things about it, and so on and so forth. So let's just get right into it. So first off, I do want to thank Brian for sending me this knife. Thank you very much, man. This is super innovative. One of the most innovative knives I've ever had the experience with, so that's awesome. And I've held a lot of knives, so that's amazing. But, you know, there is a lot of concern about the magnets and everything else. So we'll get into all that. Let's talk about the action first, because the action is one of the stars of the show here. Now, there's actually something else that's pretty amazing about it, too. We'll get into that. But the action, because it works on these two magnets down here. There's two magnets down here that hold the blade in, that also help center the blade, because you have one pushing and one pulling. What is it? Polar opposites? Is that how you say it? Either way, it's pushing and pulling the blade, making it stay nice and centered. That's also acting as the detent, creating a great amount of tension, like about as perfect of a detent as you can get. Now, you'll notice that pops up. That's just because it's wedged down in there. When I pull it down, it doesn't stop the strength of the detent. The detent's the same whether it's pulled all the way down or right there in the middle. Either way, creates a perfect amount of resistance for that reverse flick. One of the most satisfying reverse flicks I've ever felt. I love it. Absolutely love it. Now, you also have this little tab back here, which you can use as a flipper. I personally, instead of doing the push like that, I like to go from the corner and pull straight down. So kind of like a snap, where I kind of hold my finger there, and then I just like snap it down. And it works great. The sound of it, the acoustics is amazing. Absolutely amazing. And I'm guessing if you're watching this, you probably already know all these details, but we're going to get into some stuff that you might not know. Now, in just a second. First, we're going to talk about the magnetic lock. So basically, and we're going to take this thing apart because I got to show you some stuff on the inside here in just a minute. But basically, there's a magnet here, and there's another magnet hooked to the scale that attracts this magnet up when it's in place, because right now the blade is stopping this from going up. Once it goes all the way up, it pulls itself in place. And I'm probably showing you guys this thing taken apart right now, showing you exactly how it works, how it sucks itself up into there. Now, is it strong? Does it hold up? Well, according to my spine wax, yes it is. I did spine whack the heck out of it just to see, is this thing gonna hold up? You know, if I was putting pressure on the spine, I want to make sure it's not gonna slip out, all that good stuff. And surprisingly, it held up perfectly. It never had no rock after, no play, no anything. It was just fine. So that's a good thing. The lock seems to be pretty strong and durable. Now, when you disengage it, when you pull it down, on mine, now, it does eventually break in, I guess. I'm not sure how smooth it's going to wind up getting. All I know is the example I have. But it feels like it's wedged in between there, and you're just kind of unwedging it. Now, if you let it go, it'll pull itself back up because of the magnet. But if you hold it down, you'll keep it out from, being in contact with the magnet in that position. But instead, it's not really lock stick, but some people might consider it lock stick. But to me, it just feels like I'm unwedging something more than stick. But I've never used the marker on mine. I don't know. I know, like, if I had stick, I was supposed to, but I never felt like I personally had stick. So I've always loved the way it felt and was always happy with it. Now, getting into cutting performance, because this is the next good thing. The geometry of this blade cuts so good. It's a full flat grind, nice broad blade, an M390 steel. Now, Bestech is the one doing the heat treat and everything, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But passing through materials, it passes through like a dream. The cutting performance is amazing. Now, I did want to get through and push through some really dense cardboard. I like to do that in order to feel how the ergos are gonna feel, because just putting it in your hand and doing regular cutting, it cuts so good, really good. And I also like that because of the sheep's foot blade and the size of it, you have so much control. Like opening up a box, or going around an apple, or cutting basically anything that's for regular EDC. Everything maybe besides like cutting straps. This thing cuts really good, going around things, doing utility cuts, all that stuff is so good with this thing. Just the size, the geometry, the blade shape, it all works together to where it's a great little tool. But when you start pushing through really dense stuff and you really get a good grip on it, yes, I feel these spots right here. They do start fatiguing the hand. You start feeling those little pinch points right there. And yes, it does wind up getting to you a little bit. Is it to the point to where I felt like it was a bad thing? No, not unless if you're planning on doing some really heavy duty cutting long term. If it's only, for a couple minutes or something, you'll be just fine. If it's going to be an all day thing, yeah, you're probably going to want a different knife. But just for regular EDC, it works so good. And like I was saying, the utility cuts, this thing, it works so good for utility cuts. One, it has the blade shape, and then the geometry, and then the size, because the tip is nice and close to your grip, you have maximum pressure and control with that tip. So cutting performance, for all of EDC, basically, like I said, everything but like cutting straps. And the only reason why I say cutting straps is because it's kind of a short blade with a little bit of belly, and I imagine like if it's a really dense strap, it's going to slip up and around the blade. It's not going to trap the blade or anything like that. But any type of forward cutting or pinch grip cutting, you're going to be great. As far as the clip goes, the clip works great. In and out of the pocket, nice and smooth, no issues. I don't feel like it's ever going to really tear up my pockets or anything like that. Now, in the hand, it's also very comfortable because it's nice and wide. There's no sharp corners. It has a nice little ramp over there, or, where it screws in at. Very comfortable. No problems with the clip whatsoever. I'm actually very happy with the clip he put on here, both for carry and both in the hand and in the pocket. Now, as far as sharpening goes, this was going to be a huge deal, so I wanted to not only sharpen it with a fixed angled system, but I also wanted to sharpen it freehand. And I wanted to do that because I wanted to see how much metal, sharpening it just normally, exactly how I would sharpen any knife, how would it go with the magnets? Is the magnets going to attract all the steel that's removed from the edge, or is it going to be just fine? Now, let's be clear. You can tape off a knife. You can tape it off. There's lots of preventive measures you can take. You could take the blade out if you have a fixed angle system and just clamp the blade. Or if you're doing it, with a fixed angle system and you don't want to take it apart, you can tape it up, right? Same thing when you're doing freehand. But, I wanted to do it without taping it up and see how it goes. Now, with a blade shape like this, I do need to make sure I lift a little bit with my elbow, because as you notice, I can't hit the entire edge by going straight back and forth. There is a little bit of curvature to the edge. So I start with the heel, and you see right now, the upper part of the blade towards the tip is not hitting the stone. As I'm dragging it across the stone, I am going to slowly lift my elbow a little bit until it gets to the tip. It does not take much lift. But what I do not want to do is rock my angle. So I want to firmly hold my angle in place and be able to hold that angle as I go back and forth from the stone. But when I change when I'm lifting, I'm just lifting to get to the tip. So I'm not changing angle. I'm only changing what part of the blade I am hitting on the stone. A lot of people, as they're coming across the stone, they will lift or drop their angle. Now, as long as you can hold that angle really good, you can go back and forth across the stone. If you have trouble doing that, you might want to just go one direction. Sometimes when people have to lift off the stone, repeating the same angle can be a little bit tougher for them than going back and forth. So it just depends on what's more comfortable for you. Now, after sharpening, the steel felt okay. You know, it didn't feel bad in any way, but it also didn't feel great. You know, it is an overseas heat treat, Best Tech. And like I said, I don't think they did a bad heat treat or anything like that. I just don't think it's anything phenomenal. You know, it's decent M390, nothing bad, nothing great. It sharpened up okay, it deburred okay. It didn't feel extra hard on the stone or anything like that. You know, it actually a little bit on the softer side maybe, as far as how it felt on the stone. Now that's just my own opinion of how it felt on the stone. That doesn't mean that's true. You know, just from my experience sharpening it and how fast it sharpened and how the steel felt going across the diamonds. Now, that's pretty typical, to be honest. That's most M390 out here. Probably about 90%, if not more, of M390. Now, as far as how the edge came out, the edge did come out nice and crispy. Very, very sharp. Very, very keen. The polish, I did actually polish it, and then I actually dropped it back down. The polish was good. It was okay. Not as bitey as I wanted it to be, but I dropped it back down a little bit, and the bite was amazing. Now, you know, I could have lowered the angle a little bit more in order to increase the bite, but I just decided just to lower the grit. And yeah, and it's extremely sharp, extremely, extremely sharp. Now, next thing, the magnets, how did they hold up? So after taking it apart, the magnets did obviously attract a lot of the metal. Not as much as I thought it was going to be honest, but it did. You know, it did attract a lot of metal, and it also attracted like a little staple or something. I don't even know where that came from. I don't know, somewhere. Maybe it was on my desk or something. I have no idea. But, so all in all, you're not going to want to just toss this knife on metal dusty areas. And we'll talk more about that in a second. Now, when I took it apart to clean it, what I did was I rolled some tape up, and I used tape on the magnets. It was super easy to clean it. There was no issues. I know a lot of people are thinking it's going to be a struggle to clean it. No, it was really easy. You just take some tape and, dab the magnets. It takes the metal right off. So there was no issue cleaning it, and putting it back together and taking it apart. It's a little frustrating because some of the magnets do kind of want to stick together, but it was, to be honest, it was pretty easy. Not really too much of an issue. Now, I just had to kind of hold things, make sure things are set in the right position and not, mess around too much, and kind of just get the one side back on top really quick, without letting any parts wobble around too much. After you set them in their places, get that top scale on there nice and fast. But it wasn't a problem at all. Now, and then it went back right to centered. Everything was perfect. Like I said, the magnets make it self-centering. So as far as, carrying it and stuff like that, I have benches that I do grinding and stuff on. I was making sure I didn't put it on any of those surfaces. I never set it down on top of surfaces that I knew had a lot of metal dust, and I did that on purpose. If you're working in a metal dust factory, this is not going to be the knife you're going to want to bring with you. So, but if it's just your basic EDC and that's not your typical thing that, you set your knife down on, I don't think it's going to be that big of an issue. When I carried it regularly, yes, I did notice a little bit of dust around the magnets, a little bit of metal dust, but nothing out of to the extreme of where I'm like, man, I can't carry this. It wasn't like that at all. It wasn't until I did sharpen it that it really attracted a lot of metal. But like I said, I did make sure I did not put it in any compromising situations. All in all, some of the negative things aside from the magnets. My little plastic cap did pop off. That happened from opening and closing it, this little guy right there. And underneath it, I did notice a little tiny bit of rust. Get it to pop out again. No, it's stuck in there. I can glue it back in there. It's not going to be an issue, but underneath that plastic, I noticed there was little tiny dots of rust. You know, I did oil it with, I put a little oil on a Q-tip and swabbed it around there. No other parts I noticed had that issue, just underneath there. So I don't know if moisture got underneath there and that's also why it wound up popping off. I'm not sure. But when the plastic part did pop off, there was a little bit of rust spotting. So I'll just oil it, get rid of it, and then re-glue it back on there. Gluing it back on there won't be anything. I can't even get it back out now. Come on. Whatever. Anyways. But other than that, you know, and then the little fatigue in the hand through real, you know, dense pressure, you know, maybe the steel possibly, you know, just feeling average, which is normal. Really, man, this thing's been awesome. Not only has it been just a great little EDC, a little functioning EDC, you know, it's so innovative. It feels so cool. It sounds so cool. It's addicting to sit here and flick. Like, I'll, you know, I'm not going to lie. This thing is super addicting. And it's easy to carry. I do kind of wish two things. One, I wish that you could replace this with whatever color you want, or maybe different materials, whether it was carbon fiber, micarta, other colors of G10, maybe possibly even these. I'm not sure how this one would go. If this was like a neutral color, then maybe it would just be these two. Now, I don't know. Maybe that's easy to pop out. I don't know. I don't think it is, though. And then also, maybe if you could easily get the cover to go in there. You know, I know other people did have them, so maybe that is a thing. I didn't see them for sale anywhere, but, you know, maybe it was just my mistake, and maybe there is. So don't quote me on that. But that would be cool if it was just like, if there was just a place where you could go and get parts and stuff like that for this to either not have this part, the flipper action, because I did notice a few people when they grabbed it, when I showed it to them, they didn't like this part. Even though I do, they didn't. And I wouldn't mind even having a cover sometimes and only having a reverse flick. And I also, oh, there it goes, popped out. And I also would like to change my colors up if possible. But you're never worried. I know a lot of people are worried about this and getting, that has never been an issue. Not even a little bit. You can't touch it unless if you pull it out. And then in that case, you know it's pulled out, you know, and it is magnetic in there. So it has a little magnet right there that holds it in place. But all in all, I love the sharpening choil. I love the grind. I love the blade shape. I love the size. I love how addictive it is. As far as like wear and tear goes, I did get some scratches, some pretty decent scratches on the clip just from normal wear and tear, which is pretty typical of a blasted finished clip. Not that big of a deal. And, you know, it's kind of hard to pick it up, but in, you know, the naked eye or when I'm looking at it, it's a lot more significant than through the camera. The blade didn't really get too many scratches. This satin finish is really nice. It does, you know, kind of smudge up a little bit, but it's not a big deal. It's easy to keep dry, easy to wipe off. And like I said, the magnets didn't attract too much until I started sharpening. A little bit. I'm not going to lie, it was a little bit, but not to the extent that I would have thought. You know, I do really like how useful this blade is and how functional it feels for EDC and just, you know, regular everyday tasks. I love how innovative it is. I love the sound of it. It's super addicting, which I also enjoy so much, how addicting this thing is. Also, what's really cool is it's a knife that everybody enjoys. Like when you pull it out of your pocket and you let somebody check it out, they're excited. You know, they enjoy it. And, you know, it kind of makes you happy. You feel good handing over a knife that other people enjoy and it wows, you know. When you hear that ting and you just feel the action and the way the detent is, there's just something about it. And that's enjoyable, to let somebody else experience the same enjoyment that you're experiencing, even if they might not like some of the same things you do. You know, it's difficult not to enjoy a knife like this. But I'm really excited to see what else Brian has got to bring in the future, because this guy is he's a wizard. And yeah, I'm very excited for what he's got coming in the future. But there you guys go. I love you guys. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.